He aided her, unaware she was the most powerful woman in the galaxy. The cold hum of the mining outpost hung over the barren, rocky surface of Iridia 7 like a stubborn shadow. Dust and loose stones scattered whenever the weak gravity tugged at them, and the horizon shimmered with the faint heat of distant suns. For most travelers, this was a place to pass through quickly, a forgotten pocket of the galaxy where no one cared who you were. But for Marcus, it was home, a place where his hands and mind could matter more than his name. Marcus wiped his greasy palms on the edge of his jumpsuit and squinted at the shuttle in front of him. Its hull was scorched, panels hanging loose like broken teeth. Sparks hissed and curled around exposed circuits. He had seen ships in worse shape, but there was something about this one that made his gut tighten. Someone had been in trouble, bad trouble. He crouched beside the engine, opening the access panel and scanning the wiring. The repairs would be tricky. The shuttle's main drive had been fried in a sudden surge. It wasn't the kind of fix you could do with a few spare wires and a soldering torch. It would take ingenuity, patience, and more than a little luck. A sudden groan echoed from the wreckage, pulling his attention. He froze, listening, a weak cough barely audible over the whine of damaged machinery. Someone was inside. "Hello," he called cautiously, stepping closer. "Are you okay?" There was a pause. Then a soft voice, tired and strained. "Please help me." Marcus hesitated. Travelers on Iridia 7 were rarely honest. Raiders sometimes crawled from the shadows, pretending to be helpless. But the fear in that voice sounded real. He made his choice. He opened the hatch carefully. Inside, slumped against the side of the shuttle, was a woman. Her armor was scratched and scorched, her hair matted with dust and grime. She looked young, though her eyes carried a weight that made her seem older than she should. "Can you stand?" Marcus asked, offering his hands. She tried to rise but faltered, her strength barely enough to lift her head. "I can't," she admitted, her voice barely a whisper. Marcus didn't hesitate. He lifted her carefully, almost like carrying a fragile bundle. He set her down on a flat surface nearby, brushing dust from her shoulder plates. "You're safe here. I'll get you out of this." The woman's eyes flickered toward him, sharp and calculating beneath the exhaustion. There was recognition there, something he couldn't place, but she said nothing. Marcus went to work on the shuttle. Sparks flew as he connected and tested circuits, his hands moving with confidence born from years of experience. Every adjustment, every twist of a screwdriver had to be precise. One wrong move and the shuttle could explode, or worse, leave them stranded in the dead zones outside the colony. Hours passed. The twin suns crested higher in the sky, and dust devils swirled across the rocky plains. Marcus worked tirelessly, muscles aching, heart pounding, while the woman lay quietly on the makeshift bed of crates he had arranged. Occasionally, she murmured, asking questions about the ship or commenting on the parts he used. Her voice, though weak, had a strange authority, and Marcus found himself listening carefully, nodding to her suggestions even as he made adjustments. By the time the sun dipped toward the horizon, the shuttle's engine hissed and sputtered, and then roared to life. Smoke poured from the exhaust briefly before clearing. Marcus wiped his brow and grinned. "That should hold long enough to get you off this rock." The woman rose slowly, leaning on the edge of the shuttle for support. Her movements were careful but deliberate, and Marcus noticed the way she assessed every detail of the repairs as if she could see every flaw. He felt a flicker of curiosity. Who was she, really? "Thank you," she said finally, her voice steadier now. "I don't even know your name." "Marcus," he replied, shrugging. "You're welcome, though I've got a feeling there's more to your story than a simple crash." She studied him for a moment, eyes sharp, almost unreadable. Then she said, "Perhaps I am not as ordinary as I appear." Marcus laughed softly, more to ease his own curiosity than anything else. "Tell me about it later. First, let's get you somewhere safe." They prepared to leave the outpost. Marcus had a small shuttle of his own, designed for short trips and repairs, not interstellar jumps. He guided her to it, checking life support and navigation systems. She moved beside him with surprising speed, almost as if she trusted his skills completely. As they lifted off, the surface of Iridia 7 falling away beneath them, Marcus couldn't help stealing glances at her. She was quiet, yet there was a presence about her, something commanding. He felt a strange mixture of awe and curiosity, a sense that fate had dropped her into his hands for a reason he couldn't yet understand. Their journey took them through empty stretches of space, the stars stretching out like a ribbon of diamonds. The woman remained silent for most of the trip, watching Marcus work, occasionally pointing out adjustments he had missed or suggesting ways to optimize the shuttle's performance. Marcus was impressed, not just by her knowledge, but by her ability to stay calm in situations that would have made most people panic. Hours became days, and a rhythm formed. Marcus repaired and maintained the ship. She observed, advised, and occasionally tested him with small technical puzzles that kept his mind sharp. Their interactions were subtle, almost like a dance. There were no secrets spoken aloud, yet Marcus sensed that she was far more capable than she let on. One evening, as the ship glided past a field of dying stars, Marcus asked, "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" She looked out the viewport, silent for a long moment. "More than most will ever know," she said finally. "But I survive. That is what matters." Marcus nodded, understanding more than he could explain. Survival required ingenuity, courage, and a willingness to act when no one else would. Those were qualities he had, and somehow he had just passed them on to her, even if she didn't need them as much as he thought. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. It was filled with the unspoken recognition of shared struggle and mutual respect. Marcus knew one thing: whoever she was, she had been through battles that most humans couldn't imagine. And yet here she was, relying on him, albeit briefly, to get through this small patch of trouble. A sudden alarm shattered the quiet, jolting both of them. Marcus leapt to the console, scanning the readouts. "Energy signatures, Raiders," he muttered under his breath. The woman's eyes narrowed. She moved beside him, her hand resting lightly on the console. "Let me handle them," she said. Marcus hesitated. She was clearly capable, but he couldn't let go completely. "I don't know what you're capable of," he said, "but we need a plan." She smiled faintly, the first genuine expression he had seen on her face. "I trust your mind," she said simply. "It will complement my power." Marcus blinked, unsure what she meant, but he didn't argue. Together, they adjusted the ship's shields and prepared for the incoming threat. Marcus noticed small details: the way she analyzed the ship's systems, how she predicted enemy movements. He realized then that she was not just skilled, she was extraordinary, yet she moved among him as if they were equals. The raid was brief but intense. Smaller ships darted around them, lasers cutting through the dark void. Marcus improvised a few maneuvers, using debris and asteroid fields as cover. The woman took control at key moments, her movements precise, almost like a dance. Within minutes, the attackers were retreating, their coordination broken, and the two of them were safe. As the stars settled back into their quiet rhythm, Marcus exhaled, leaning back in his chair. "I don't know who you are," he admitted, "but I hope we meet more under less dangerous circumstances." She looked at him, eyes glinting with something he couldn't name. "You have no idea," she said softly. Then, with a faint nod, she turned back to the controls, silent once more. That night, Marcus found himself lying on a narrow bunk, listening to the low hum of the ship. He thought about the woman, about the skills she had shown, and about the strange pull of fate that had placed her in his path. He didn't know what the future held, but he felt certain of one thing: the galaxy was far bigger than he had imagined, and this woman, mysterious, powerful, and somehow vulnerable, was a doorway into that larger world. Sleep came slowly. Marcus dreamed of stars stretching endlessly, of battles and alliances, of a galaxy that might one day depend on humans like him to tip the scales. And in that dream, he knew he would rise to the challenge, even if he didn't yet understand the full measure of what lay ahead. Morning came with a soft, golden glow spilling into the cockpit. Marcus rose, stretching his tired muscles, and glanced at the woman. She was already awake, standing at the viewport, silent and still. Her presence filled the small space, commanding yet unthreatening. He took a deep breath and stepped closer. "Where do we go now?" he asked. She turned, eyes meeting his with a look that was both solemn and resolute. "We go where we are needed," she said, "and perhaps where destiny calls." Marcus nodded, unsure what that meant but feeling the weight of it anyway. Whatever lay ahead, he knew he would face it with skill, courage, and perhaps, for the first time, a partner he could trust completely. The stars stretched on, endless and unknowable, and two figures, one human, one far more than human, set a course together, bound by circumstance, trust, and the faint promise of greatness. The stars outside the cockpit stretched endlessly, a black canvas dotted with distant suns and swirling nebulae. Marcus felt a strange mix of excitement and unease as he adjusted the ship's course. The woman beside him, her presence both commanding and calm, remained silent, watching the instruments with a focus that made him respect her even more. They had left Iridia 7 behind, leaving the danger of raiders and rogue patrols far behind, but Marcus knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was larger, more complicated, and far more dangerous than anything he had ever imagined. He stole a glance at her. She sat upright, her armor still scorched from the crash, yet she moved with a confidence that made it clear she had survived far worse. "Where are we going?" Marcus asked cautiously. He had learned long ago not to assume anything in space, not even from someone who seemed all-knowing. She turned her head slightly, her dark eyes meeting his. "Somewhere safe for now," she said. "But safety is temporary. There are forces looking for me. Forces that do not hesitate to destroy anyone in their path." Marcus nodded, absorbing the weight of her words. He had always thought of space as harsh and lonely, but now he realized it was not just the environment, it was the people out there. Predators in suits of power, more interested in control than survival. He focused on the ship's console, plotting a course through less traveled sectors. "We'll take the Vega corridor," he said. "Few patrols, lots of asteroid fields, they won't follow us there." She studied him carefully, as if evaluating not just his choice, but the mind behind it. Then she nodded, a faint trace of a smile touching her lips. "Impressive," she said. "Humans often underestimate danger, but you calculate it well." Marcus felt a rush of pride, though he kept his expression neutral. He wasn't used to praise, especially from someone who clearly commanded power beyond his imagination. "I've had to survive on my own for a long time," he admitted. "You learn fast when mistakes can get you killed." She didn't respond immediately, but he noticed the subtle way she shifted her posture, as if considering his words. Then, after a long pause, she said, "Survival is not enough. Sometimes you must act. Even when you fear you cannot." Marcus nodded, understanding more than he let on. That was what he did every day in one form or another, acting when others hesitated, finding solutions where none seemed possible, and somehow he felt she saw him for what he truly was. The journey through the Vega corridor was tense. Meteoroid belts twisted and churned around them, the weak gravity of drifting rocks threatening to puncture the ship's hull at any moment. Marcus guided the ship with precise adjustments, his hands steady despite the adrenaline coursing through him. The woman watched quietly, occasionally pointing out better angles or ways to use the ship's shields more efficiently. It was during one of these maneuvers that Marcus realized something extraordinary. She didn't just give advice. She seemed to anticipate the obstacles before he did, almost as if she could see the patterns of the universe itself. Yet she never overpowered him, never took full control. She let him work, let him make decisions, but enhanced them with her insight. "Why are you helping me?" he asked at one point, his voice cutting through the low hum of the engines. She glanced at him briefly, her expression unreadable. "Because you saved me," she said simply, "and because I see value in your mind and spirit. You are rare." Marcus swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. Compliments were unusual, but recognition of skill and courage was something he could respect. "I just did what anyone would," he said, shrugging. "Maybe not well, but I did it." She studied him silently for a moment, then looked away, returning to the viewport. The stars flowed past, the light of distant suns painting the cockpit in hues of blue and gold. Marcus realized then that there was more to her than even she let on. He didn't know what secrets she carried, but he felt a growing sense of trust. As they moved deeper into the corridor, a sudden alert flared across the console. Marcus's heart skipped a beat. "Sensors are picking up multiple ships," he muttered. "Small, fast, raiders probably, but more organized than before." The woman leaned over the console, her eyes narrowing as she scanned the readouts. "They are scouts," she said. "They are not here by accident. Someone is tracking us." Marcus's mind raced. He had dealt with raiders before, but these were different. Their movements were precise, coordinated. He adjusted the shields and prepared the weapon systems, knowing that speed and cleverness might be their only advantage. The first scout ship appeared as a glint of metal against the blackness of space. Marcus took the controls, guiding the shuttle into a narrow pass between floating asteroids. The scout fired, lasers streaking past them, harmlessly grazing the shields. He gritted his teeth, calculating trajectories, angles, timing. Beside him, the woman moved with calm efficiency. She pressed buttons he didn't even recognize, manipulating the ship's systems in ways he hadn't thought possible. Deflect the energy burst at 23 degrees, she instructed. Now left roll. Marcus followed her direction, marveling at the precision of her guidance. The scout ship faltered, unable to keep up with their sudden maneuvers. In minutes, they were past the first wave, moving deeper into the asteroid field. That was too close, Marcus said, wiping sweat from his brow. She smiled faintly. Close is part of living, she said. Those who fear it never survive. Hours passed as they evaded more scouts, the tension building with every pulse of the engines. Marcus's skills were tested like never before, but the woman's quiet presence and guidance gave him confidence. Together, they became a seamless team, balancing human intuition with her extraordinary insight. When the last scout finally gave up the chase, Marcus exhaled heavily. I thought we were done for, he admitted. You were never alone, she said softly, even when you didn't know it. The words lingered between them, unspoken in meaning but heavy with implication. Marcus felt something shift, an understanding that went beyond survival, beyond skill. There was trust, growing stronger with every challenge they overcame together. They eventually found a secluded area within the corridor, a small cluster of rocks providing cover from sensors and patrols. Marcus brought the ship to a gentle stop, scanning the surroundings. This should give us a day or two to rest, he said. The woman nodded, moving to a small area he had prepared. She sat down, removing her helmet and revealing hair that glimmered in the faint light, dark and untamed. Her eyes softened slightly, though they still held the intensity of someone who had seen too much. Marcus settled opposite her, feeling the weight of silence. You've been through a lot, he said cautiously. I mean, I can tell just from everything, and yet you keep moving forward. She looked at him, and for the first time her eyes were not guarded. Survival is only the first step, she said. Power, knowledge, strategy, they are necessary to change what is wrong, but the first step always begins with courage, even small acts of courage. Marcus nodded slowly. He had always believed that humans were adaptable, that intelligence and persistence could overcome almost any obstacle. He had never been called rare for it, though. Her words carried weight, as if she recognized a spark that most ignored. They spoke little after that, but the quiet was comfortable. Marcus worked on minor adjustments to the ship, checking systems, and ensuring everything was in order while she watched the stars drift by. Sometimes she would make a suggestion, a tweak here, a calculation there, and Marcus would implement it. It was a partnership, unspoken yet powerful. Night, or the closest approximation to night in the endless void of space, came, and Marcus prepared a small area for rest. The woman accepted without complaint, lying down beside the limited space of the cockpit with grace. Marcus couldn't help but feel the enormity of what had happened. A stranger, injured and mysterious, had come into his life, and he had become essential to her survival. Sleep came fitfully. Marcus dreamed of distant worlds, of battles he had never fought, and of a galaxy that seemed suddenly larger and more dangerous. He dreamed of her, not as a powerful figure, but as someone who relied on him, briefly but meaningfully. And in those dreams, he realized that humans, with their ingenuity, courage, and perseverance, could make a difference in ways even the greatest powers might underestimate. Morning arrived, spilling light across the narrow cockpit. Marcus awoke to find her already awake, standing at the viewport. Her silhouette was strong, elegant, and commanding, yet her eyes held a quiet thoughtfulness. Marcus stretched and approached. "Are you ready to keep going?" he asked. She turned to him, her gaze steady. "Yes," she said. "There is much to do, but we are stronger together. You have more courage than you know, Marcus. Do not underestimate yourself." He felt a swell of pride and determination. Together, they had survived danger, evaded enemies, and begun a journey that would test their limits. But he realized something important. It was not her power that defined their success. It was the combination of human resourcefulness and her extraordinary abilities, working as one. The ship lifted off, moving deeper into the galaxy, toward unknown challenges, alliances, and dangers. Marcus knew this was only the beginning, but he felt ready. With courage, ingenuity, and the unspoken trust between them, they could face whatever the universe had in store. The stars stretched on endlessly, and for the first time Marcus felt a small but firm certainty. Humans could change the galaxy. Not by brute strength, not by luck, but through determination, intellect, and the courage to act when others faltered. And perhaps, just perhaps, this mysterious woman had found in him not just a helper, but a partner who could walk alongside her in the trials to come. The Vega corridor had given them temporary safety, but Marcus knew they could not hide forever. Even in the far reaches of space, nothing stayed secret for long. He watched the stars glide past, trying to anticipate threats he couldn't see. The hum of the shuttle was familiar, comforting, yet every sound made him tense. The woman beside him, her presence calm, yet commanding, seemed unbothered by the distance and danger. She scanned the sensors, her eyes narrowing whenever the slightest irregularity appeared. Marcus had grown used to her quiet confidence, but he knew she carried knowledge and power far beyond his understanding. Still, he had discovered that human skill could complement even extraordinary abilities. A sudden alarm cut through the low hum of the engines, making both of them snap to attention. Marcus rushed to the console, scanning the incoming data. Multiple ships, fast and aggressive, were converging on their position. The sensors identified them as fighters, small but heavily armed, moving with coordination that went beyond random pirate raids. "They found us," Marcus said grimly. The woman's eyes hardened. "Not by chance," she said. "Someone wants me captured, or worse, prepare yourself." Marcus's pulse quickened. He had evaded raiders and dealt with dangerous patrols before, but this felt different. These were not opportunistic attacks. These were calculated, targeted. He quickly assessed their options. The shuttle was nimble but lightly armed, and while the shields could take a few hits, prolonged combat would be fatal. "Here's what we can do," he said, pointing to the display. "We move through the asteroid cluster up ahead. It's tight, but it will force them to break formation. I can use the shuttle's thrusters to ricochet off the larger rocks and throw off their targeting systems." She studied him, her dark eyes thoughtful. "You are clever," she said. "Few would risk the maneuver you propose." "Very well, let us see how your courage serves." Marcus nodded, bracing himself. He guided the shuttle toward the cluster, weaving between massive asteroids with precision. The enemy fighters followed, relentless and precise. Lasers streaked past, striking rocks and exploding in showers of sparks. Marcus twisted the controls, using the debris to shield them, firing small bursts from the shuttle's cannons to disrupt sensors. The woman stood beside him, hands hovering over the console. Her voice was calm but commanding. "Adjust shields to compensate for angular velocity. Marcus, now left thruster full." He followed her instructions, feeling a thrill as the shuttle twisted and spun between floating boulders. One miscalculation and they would be shredded. The enemy fighters faltered, unable to match their maneuvers. Marcus grinned briefly, feeling the surge of human ingenuity at work. Even against enemies who might have had superior firepower, clever thinking could turn the tide. But the danger was far from over. One fighter, smaller and faster than the others, broke through their formation. It targeted the shuttle's rear, firing rapid pulses. Marcus's hands flew over the controls, calculating angles, thrust, and timing. "Hold on," he shouted. The woman's eyes flared as she touched a series of hidden controls. A faint blue shimmer enveloped the shuttle, bending light around them. The shot fired by the enemy glanced harmlessly off the energy field. Marcus gaped. What did you do?" "Minor manipulation," she said calmly. "Do not dwell, we have more pressing matters." Marcus shook his head in disbelief. She had power that could change the rules of the fight entirely, yet she let him navigate the immediate danger. It was a lesson he would not forget. Human skill could complement even the extraordinary, creating solutions neither could achieve alone. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The asteroid field became a deadly maze, and Marcus's nerves burned with adrenaline. Every movement required precision. One mistake could mean death. The woman offered advice, corrected angles, and occasionally moved the ship systems in ways Marcus couldn't fully comprehend. Together they formed a rhythm, a partnership of instinct, skill, and extraordinary perception. Finally, the last enemy ship broke off pursuit, unable to follow further into the dense cluster. Marcus exhaled, muscles trembling, adrenaline still coursing through his veins. The woman leaned against the console, observing him with a faint, approving smile. "You did well," she said. "Clever, adaptable, that is why you survive." Marcus shrugged, still catching his breath. "I didn't do it alone," he said. "You helped more than you know." She met his gaze, and for a moment Marcus felt the weight of her attention. "Perhaps," she said softly, "but your decisions made the difference. Never forget the value of your mind and courage. Silence returned, filled only by the gentle hum of the shuttle and the distant glow of stars. Marcus worked on repairs, checking the engines and thrusters that had been strained during the chase. The woman observed quietly, occasionally making minor adjustments or suggestions. There was a calm efficiency to her presence, a quiet authority that required no words to command respect. As the tension of the attack faded, Marcus allowed himself a moment to think. He had encountered many people in his life, many travelers and adventurers, but none like her. There was a mystery about her, a power he could barely imagine. And yet she had chosen to rely on him, not just as a helper, but as a partner in survival. Hours later, with the shuttle safely navigating away from the asteroid field, Marcus allowed himself a small sense of relief. They had survived, but he knew it was only temporary. Whoever was after her would not give up so easily. The woman broke the silence. You may not understand now, but the dangers ahead are unlike any you have faced. There are powers in the galaxy that would see me destroyed, and anyone near me will be threatened as well. Marcus nodded slowly. Then we'll face them together. She looked at him, eyes thoughtful. Yes, together, that is why I trust you. Marcus felt a strange warmth at her words. Trust from someone like her was not given lightly. It was recognition, acknowledgement, and a challenge all at once. He had grown up thinking humans were small in a vast galaxy, easily overlooked. Yet here he was, essential to the survival of someone extraordinary, a figure whose importance could shift the balance of entire worlds. The journey continued, taking them through regions of space Marcus had never imagined. Strange energy fields, drifting debris, and abandoned stations littered their path. Each obstacle required careful navigation and creative solutions. Marcus found that his skills, honed on a small mining outpost, were more valuable than he had ever realized. Simple tools, quick thinking, and the ability to adapt gave them an edge even in the presence of extraordinary power. One day, as they passed a drifting research station abandoned decades ago, Marcus spotted faint movement on the sensors. "We're not alone," he said cautiously. The woman studied the display, then her expression hardened. "Boarding parties," she said. "They are trying to trap us." Marcus's mind raced. "We can't outrun them forever. We'll have to fight them off or outsmart them." She nodded. "Then we must prepare. I will give you guidance, but you must act decisively. This is where your courage and skill are tested." The boarding party arrived sooner than expected. Small craft detached from the station, converging on the shuttle. Marcus prepared the shuttle's defenses, while the woman adjusted systems he didn't fully understand. The attacks began, rapid, coordinated strikes designed to disable their engines and shields. Marcus dodged and maneuvered, using debris and asteroid fragments to shield the shuttle. Lasers struck and glanced off the shields, sparks flying. He fired small cannons to disrupt the attackers' targeting, while the woman directed energy pulses that altered the battlefield subtly but effectively. Minutes stretched into tense hours. Marcus's heart raced, yet he felt a calm clarity. Every decision, every calculation mattered. He realized something profound. Humans were underestimated not because they were weak, but because their ability to adapt, improvise, and endure was unparalleled. Finally, the boarding party retreated, their ships damaged and systems disrupted. Marcus exhaled, muscles trembling. The woman turned to him, eyes softening. "You were magnificent," she said. "Few beings could have navigated that chaos so well. Your courage saved us both." Marcus shook his head, still in disbelief. "I just did what I had to do. You guided me, yes, but I acted." Her smile was faint but genuine. "And that is why humans matter. Not because of raw power, but because of ingenuity, courage, and the willingness to act when others hesitate." Marcus felt a surge of pride and determination. He had grown in ways he hadn't expected. He had faced extraordinary dangers, relied on his skills, and proven that human courage and intellect could match, even complement, powers far beyond ordinary comprehension. The shuttle continued its journey, deeper into uncharted space. Marcus worked on repairs and improvements, guided by the woman's subtle instructions. Their partnership had solidified, built on trust, shared danger, and mutual respect. As they traveled, Marcus realized something that made his chest tighten with resolve. The galaxy was vast and dangers were many, but humans, resourceful, brave, and clever, had a place among the stars. And perhaps with allies like her, they could shape the destiny of the galaxy itself. The stars stretched endlessly, indifferent and beautiful. Marcus felt ready to face whatever came next, knowing that courage, skill, and trust could make even the smallest human a force to be reckoned with. And somewhere deep in the void, enemies watched, calculating, preparing. The next confrontation would be larger, more dangerous, and impossible to predict. But Marcus was no longer just a human engineer. He was a partner, a problem solver, and a hero in the making. And that was exactly what the galaxy would need. The shuttle glided silently through a field of drifting comets, their icy tails glowing faintly against the darkness of space. Marcus had grown used to the quiet hum of the engines, the subtle vibration beneath his feet, but this calm felt different. The woman beside him, always composed, always precise, scanned the stars with a sharp intensity that left him in awe. Each movement she made seemed deliberate, measured, as if she were reading the future and calculating every possibility. They were approaching a hidden base, a haven tucked within the remnants of a shattered moon. The woman had called it a place of safety, a place where she could gather allies without fear of discovery. Marcus had never seen anything like it. Massive spires of metal jutted from the moon's jagged surface, connected by bridges and energy conduits that pulsed with life. Lights glimmered in clusters, revealing activity deep within the ruins. "This is where we regroup," she said. Her voice was calm, almost soft, but it carried an authority that made Marcus listen intently. "Here, you will learn to operate not just as an individual, but as part of a team. You will see the galaxy differently, and your role will be more important than you imagine." Marcus nodded, swallowing the mix of fear and excitement he felt. He had spent his life as an engineer, solving problems and repairing machinery, rarely interacting with anyone outside his outpost. Now he was about to step into a web of alliances, strategies, and battles that spanned entire star systems. The thought was overwhelming, but he felt ready. The landing was smooth, though Marcus's heart pounded as the shuttle touched down on a reinforced platform. Guards approached, clad in armor that shimmered with energy fields. They stopped as the woman stepped forward, and a few words passed between them. Marcus noticed the respect in their posture, the way they seemed to acknowledge her authority without question. "Welcome to the base," she said to him quietly, her eyes scanning the perimeter. "We have allies here, some human, some not. You will need to learn quickly. They respect skill, courage, and intelligence, not titles, not power. Those who do not prove themselves are left behind." Marcus felt a surge of determination. He had never been in a place like this, among beings who were capable, fearless, and sometimes extraordinary. But he had something they might not expect: human ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. He resolved silently to prove his worth. Inside the base, the activity was astonishing. Engineers worked on starships that Marcus could barely comprehend, weapons and devices beyond his imagination, and tactical planners huddled over holographic maps of distant star systems. He moved among them cautiously, feeling both excitement and intimidation. Yet when he demonstrated his skills, repairing a damaged energy conduit, recalibrating a starship's navigation system, he felt a subtle shift in how others regarded him. They recognized ability, and in this place, ability mattered more than anything else. The woman observed him closely, her sharp eyes noting every success, every hesitation. "You adapt quickly," she said at one point, as they walked through the corridors lined with humming machinery. "That is what makes humans unique. You think in ways others do not, and your courage allows you to act when others hesitate. Remember this: in the coming battles, your mind and heart will be as valuable as any weapon." Marcus nodded, absorbing the words. He felt a strange mix of pride and anxiety. The stakes were growing higher with every passing hour. They would not always face isolated attacks like in the Vega corridor. Larger forces were at play now, and their enemies were organized, relentless, and well-equipped. Days passed as Marcus trained with the allies, learning new skills and strategies. The woman guided him subtly, allowing him to make decisions while offering advice only when necessary. She emphasized teamwork, strategy, and foresight, teaching him to see not just the immediate problem, but the larger picture: the flow of forces across space, the movements of enemies, and the opportunities that could be exploited. During one training session, Marcus found himself coordinating a simulated defense of the base. The holographic enemy ships moved swiftly, attempting to overwhelm their forces. He analyzed the patterns, adjusting tactics, directing resources and improvising maneuvers. The simulation tested his mind and nerves, but he adapted quickly. By the end, even the woman gave a rare nod of approval. "You think creatively," she said. "Your solutions are unexpected, and that unpredictability makes you dangerous to those who underestimate humans." Marcus felt a quiet satisfaction. He had always believed that humans, despite being considered small in a galaxy of powerful beings, could make a difference. Now he had proof, not just in theory but in practice. But the calm did not last. A sudden alert flared across the base's sensors. Marcus and the woman rushed to the control room, where holographic displays showed enemy ships approaching in formation, faster, and more numerous than any forces they had encountered. "They are here," the woman said grimly. "They know our location. They intend to destroy us." Marcus's heart pounded. He had survived ambushes and attacks before, but this was different. The enemy was organized, efficient, and relentless. Their numbers were overwhelming, and their firepower threatened to tear the base apart. "We have to act quickly," he said, scanning the displays. "We can't match them in a straight fight. We need strategy, deception, something they won't expect." The woman nodded. "Then you will lead a team of engineers and tacticians. Your task is to create traps, defenses, and diversions. I will handle direct confrontation, but your role is essential. Without your quick thinking, we may not survive." Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders, but he accepted it. He coordinated with the other engineers, setting up energy barriers, automated turrets, and decoy signals. Every decision mattered, and every calculation had to be precise. The enemy would not give them a second chance. As the enemy fleet approached, Marcus watched from the control room. The first ships entered the system, unaware of the traps and defenses waiting for them. Energy fields surged, lasers targeted them precisely, and automated systems forced them into dangerous positions. Marcus felt a surge of pride. His planning was working. The woman moved with grace and power, coordinating attacks and striking key targets with precision. Marcus marveled at her skill, realizing that together, human ingenuity and extraordinary power created a force neither could achieve alone. The battle raged for hours. Marcus's mind raced as he adjusted defenses, repaired damaged systems, and anticipated enemy maneuvers. He directed small teams, improvising when unexpected threats arose, always thinking several steps ahead. The woman fought alongside them, a whirlwind of strategy, power, and precision. At one point, an enemy ship broke through the outer defenses, heading straight for a critical energy conduit. Marcus acted instantly, rerouting power, activating emergency shields, and calculating the trajectory of the ship. The conduit was spared, and the enemy vessel was neutralized by a combination of automated turrets and her precise strikes. "Excellent work," she said, appearing beside him. "Your decisions saved lives and kept the base operational. Remember this: courage, quick thinking, and teamwork are what turn the tide. Raw power alone is never enough." Marcus felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had never imagined that his skills, honed in a small mining outpost, could make such a difference in a battle of galactic scale. Yet here he was, proving that humans underestimated and overlooked could change the course of events through courage, intelligence, and determination. As the last of the enemy ships retreated, the base erupted in cheers and relief. Marcus allowed himself a small smile, but the woman's expression remained thoughtful. "This was only the beginning," she said. "There will be more attacks, larger fleets, and enemies who will not hesitate to destroy anything in their path. You must continue to learn, adapt, and grow. The galaxy is vast, and our fight is far from over." Marcus nodded. He had faced danger before, but this battle had shown him the scale of what lay ahead. He had survived, but survival alone was not enough. To protect those who could not protect themselves, to shape the course of events in the galaxy, he would need every ounce of courage, skill, and ingenuity he possessed. In the quiet that followed the battle, Marcus and the woman walked through the base, observing the repairs and preparations for the next challenge. Allies worked tirelessly, their focus unwavering. Marcus felt a deep sense of connection to them, a recognition that even in a galaxy of extraordinary beings, humans could hold their own when they relied on their intelligence, courage, and adaptability. The woman turned to him, her expression solemn but kind. "Marcus, you are more than you realize. Humans are underestimated not because they are weak, but because their strength lies in thought, creativity, and the willingness to act. You embody all of these qualities. Never doubt your importance. Marcus felt a surge of resolve. He had seen the power of human ingenuity and courage firsthand. He had witnessed how even the smallest decisions could shape the outcome of battles, how trust and teamwork could amplify strength, and how determination could turn the tide against overwhelming odds. As night, or the closest equivalent in space, fell over the base, Marcus looked out at the stars, feeling a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. The galaxy was larger, more dangerous, and more complex than he had ever imagined. But he also knew something essential. Humans had a place among the stars. Their courage, intelligence, and ingenuity made them indispensable, even in a universe filled with beings far more powerful than themselves. He turned to the woman who stood silently beside him, her eyes reflecting the distant glow of stars. "What comes next?" he asked. She smiled faintly, a rare and fleeting expression. "The next challenge. A larger enemy, a test of all we have learned, and a chance to prove that humans are not to be underestimated. Together, we will face it, and we will succeed." Marcus felt a surge of determination. He had survived, adapted, and proven his worth. Now he would face the next trial with courage, intelligence, and the quiet certainty that humans, even when overlooked, could change the galaxy. The shuttle awaited, repairs completed and systems optimized. Marcus felt the familiar thrill of movement, the hum of engines beneath him, the endless possibilities of space stretching ahead. The galaxy was dangerous, full of threats and challenges, but he felt ready. With courage, ingenuity, and trust, he would face whatever came next. And somewhere in the vastness of space, enemies were preparing, unaware that humans, small, clever, and courageous, could tip the scales in ways they never imagined. Marcus looked at the woman beside him, feeling a sense of partnership, trust, and shared destiny. The battles ahead would be difficult, the dangers immense, but they were not alone. Together, they were stronger, capable of facing challenges that neither could overcome alone. The stars stretched endlessly, indifferent and beautiful. Marcus felt a quiet certainty settle within him. Humans mattered. Courage, intelligence, and determination could change outcomes, shift the balance, and even shape the destiny of the galaxy itself. The galaxy spread out before them, endless and indifferent, but for Marcus, the weight of responsibility pressed heavily on his shoulders. They were nearing the capital planet of the overlords, the very heart of the forces that had pursued the woman across countless systems. Marcus had trained, planned, and fought, but nothing could fully prepare him for the magnitude of what awaited. The shuttle's sensors picked up the enemy fleet long before their visual sightlines could. Ships of all sizes, organized in precise formations, patrolled the space around the planet. Marcus felt a cold knot of fear tighten in his chest. Their numbers were overwhelming. Every instinct screamed to flee, but he remembered her words. Courage, intelligence, and action could change outcomes even against impossible odds. The woman beside him stood at the console, calm as ever. "We cannot avoid this battle," she said. "We have prepared, but the fight will test all we are. Your decisions, Marcus, will be crucial. Are you ready?" He swallowed hard, nodding. "I am. I'll do everything I can." She gave a faint smile, the first true expression of relief he had seen from her in days. "Then let us show the galaxy what humans are capable of." They emerged from the shadow of an asteroid belt, the capital planet looming large below them. The fleet reacted instantly, detecting their presence, targeting sensors locking onto the shuttle and the accompanying rebel ships. Marcus gritted his teeth and began calculations. The enemy would attempt to surround them, isolate the ships, and destroy them in detail. He quickly devised a plan, using a combination of speed, misdirection, and clever manipulation of the battlefield. "First, we divide their formation," he said, pointing at the display. "I'll create a false signal here, draw half their fleet toward the asteroid field, while you and the main force strike from the opposite side." The woman studied him, her eyes narrowing with focus. "Bold," she said. "Risky but effective. Do it." Marcus activated the shuttle's stealth systems, diverting energy to create decoy signals. Enemy sensors blazed with false readings, and as he had predicted, half of the fleet altered course, pursuing the phantom ships. The woman's forces surged forward, weaving through the remaining enemy fleet with precision. Marcus coordinated communications between the Allied ships, directing movements, targeting weak points, and improvising tactics on the fly. Every decision mattered, and his mind raced with calculations, estimations, and contingencies. The first wave of combat began with chaos and intensity. Lasers flashed across space, shields flared, and ships twisted through the void to avoid destruction. Marcus maneuvered the shuttle through narrow spaces, using debris and smaller vessels as cover. He fired disruptors to disable enemy targeting systems, creating openings for Allied ships to exploit. Beside him, the woman moved with unmatched skill. Her strikes were precise, disabling key vessels and protecting vulnerable allies. She was a whirlwind of calculated destruction, yet she never overpowered Marcus's role. He realized then that even her extraordinary power was amplified by human ingenuity. Together, they created a force neither could achieve alone. As the battle raged, Marcus noticed a massive capital ship moving to flank them, its weapons capable of destroying the entire fleet in moments. He calculated trajectories, predicting its movements and the timing required to intercept. "We can't let it reach the front line," he shouted to the woman. She nodded. "Then lead me to it." Marcus guided the shuttle, weaving through debris and enemy fire, drawing the massive ship into a vulnerable position. The woman's powers flowed through the ship's systems, manipulating energy fields and disabling weapons with precision. Marcus coordinated the Allied forces, ensuring every maneuver complemented her strikes. Minutes felt like hours. Explosions rocked the void, ships twisted in space, and the tension mounted with every passing second. Marcus's hands moved quickly, instinct and intellect working together, adjusting shields, weapons, and engines with rapid precision. Finally, the capital ship faltered, disabled by a combination of Marcus's strategic placement and the woman's extraordinary power. The remaining enemy fleet faltered, retreating under the relentless assault. Marcus exhaled, muscles trembling, adrenaline coursing through him. "You did it," she said, appearing beside him. Her voice carried quiet awe. "Your decisions, your courage, they changed everything." "You are as important as any weapon in this fight." Marcus shook his head, still in disbelief. "I just acted," he said. "I did what had to be done. We did it together." She smiled faintly, a rare and genuine expression. "And that is why humans are indispensable. You think small, act quickly, and adapt. That is how the galaxy is changed, not by power alone, but by courage, intelligence, and determination." The battle was over, but the consequences echoed across the galaxy. The capital planet remained under their control, the Overlord's forces scattered, and the rebel alliance strengthened. Marcus had not only survived, but had proven that human ingenuity and courage could alter the course of events on a galactic scale. In the aftermath, the base celebrated, allies expressing gratitude and admiration. Marcus felt a deep sense of fulfillment, though he remained humble. He had faced extraordinary dangers, but he had also discovered something profound. Humans could make a difference where others believed it impossible. The woman approached him as the celebrations continued around them. "Marcus," she said, her tone soft but firm, "you have proven yourself beyond measure. Your courage, intelligence, and perseverance have saved countless lives. I trust you completely. Will you continue to stand beside me?" Marcus felt the weight of her words, realizing the magnitude of the offer. He had begun as a simple engineer on a remote outpost, never imagining that his skills, courage, and quick thinking could impact the galaxy. And yet, here he was, recognized, respected, and needed. "I will," he said finally, determination in his voice. "As long as it takes, I will stand beside you. We do this together." She nodded, her eyes reflecting the distant stars. "Then we shall face whatever comes next. The galaxy is vast, dangerous, and full of challenges. But with courage, intellect, and trust, even the smallest human can change the course of history." Marcus felt a quiet pride, a sense of purpose he had never known. He had learned that survival was only the first step. To protect, to influence, and to shape the future required action, intelligence, and courage. And in the company of someone extraordinary, he had discovered that humans could matter as much as any power in the galaxy. The shuttle prepared for its next journey, engines humming, systems optimized. Marcus felt the familiar thrill of movement, the endless possibilities of space stretching before him. The galaxy was still dangerous, and threats remained, but he knew they were ready. Together, human ingenuity and extraordinary power could face any challenge. As they left the planet's orbit, Marcus looked at the woman beside him. "What will happen now?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "The galaxy will continue to test us, but we will prevail." There are worlds that need protection, allies to be rallied, and enemies who will underestimate us. That is our advantage. And you, Marcus, will continue to prove that humans are more than they seem. Marcus nodded, feeling the truth of her words. Humans were underestimated, overlooked, dismissed, but their courage, intelligence, and adaptability made them formidable. He had survived, learned, and grown, and he knew that together they could face anything. The stars stretched endlessly, indifferent yet full of possibilities. Marcus felt a deep sense of purpose and pride. He had proven that humans could matter in a galaxy of extraordinary beings. Not by brute power, but by courage, intelligence, and the willingness to act when others hesitated. The woman beside him remained calm, yet he knew her mind was already planning the next move, the next challenge, and he would be ready. Together, they would face whatever the galaxy had to throw at them, proving that human ingenuity, determination, and courage could change the course of history. As the shuttle accelerated into the depths of space, Marcus allowed himself a small, quiet smile. The journey had begun long ago with a simple act of helping a stranger in need, but now it had grown into something much larger. He was no longer just a human engineer. He was a partner, a strategist, and a hero in his own right. And the galaxy, vast and indifferent, would never underestimate humans again.